But yeah, we've been celebrating so many different things. This time of year, we've made it as parents. The craziness of May and sports and all of this stuff, and we celebrate so many things, and we're all just kind of exhausted between seasons. And I know my day yesterday was completely crazy, but part of the thing we get to also celebrate as a church is, I will also have a picture because surprisingly they didn't make it this morning, but Keaton and Keely Haney, they got married yesterday. We were part of the celebration. In the family, obviously, Larry said the boys are all still sleeping, and I'm sure they're all exhausted. But I also wanted to introduce and let you know that Keaton and Keely got married last night. So when they do make it back to church, you can celebrate the marriage. So many things that we're celebrating, so many things that we're going into. And this week, if you were here last week, we've been talking about our sermon series called Not So Undercover, where we have discussion, where we have parts where we talk about what God is doing in the life of you guys, and plus it just makes it more fun for me to be able to do a sermon. This is my friend Brenda. You've probably seen her. She's been part of One Church since really the beginning. Making coffee, doing a lot of the behind the scenes part. This week we talked her into singing too and doing a sermon. So she's really getting out of her comfort zone today. But I want to share a little bit of how I got to know Brenda. So you're one of those people that I knew long before One Church, actually long before I actually was even in ministry. Many of you have heard the story of my life, and if you've missed it or haven't caught this part, I was a teacher for many years. The funding got cut. So I lost my position in the school, and I was working many, many different jobs, and my friend Chris invited me to come work for the city of Midland in a temporary position. And Brenda's one of the people that I met working for the city, and she was one of those lights in a very dark, difficult season of our life. And right away, we found out each other were Christian, and we'd share and we'd talk, and she helped keep me on the straight and narrow. Trying to figure out all the many different things, the 84 parks in Midland and where they all are. So oftentimes I'd come running to Brenda and be like, I'm supposed to do this, help me out. I don't even know what this word means. And she would help me out, or where this park was, or many different things. But as my position transformed, and I thought of this week, and I waited to even share this in front of everybody, because I don't even know if you remember this. Part of my job that I had at the city of Midland was I had to handle complaints about people's sidewalks that are overgrown or bushes that are overgrown, and I had to be the bad person and show up. And Brenda was one of those people that kind of, I would come and vent to and be like, I got yelled at again because they don't like the idea that their bushes are overgrown and da-da-da-da-da, and I took the pictures, and she would have to upload them, and we'd go through all this stuff. And she gave me 2 bits of advice. The first one was, she said, I have an idea for you, and I don't know if you remember this. You said, we've just retired an old cop car. So do you remember any of this? So instead of driving the pickup that the city gives you, take the old cop car. And I was like, oh, good idea. And so I started doing that. Never once did anybody say another word to me. I would get out of this cop car and people were like, I know my bush is overgrown. I'll cut it back right now. And it was like the greatest hack ever, where I'm like, this job is easy when you drive an old cop car. Nobody back talks you or yells at you. But the other one was showing me how to be a Christian. We're going to get into some of this. And the other one was in one of those days where maybe it's just me that have had really, really bad days. And I had 2 little ones at home, right? And Jackson was just born. Isabel was just over 2. And she knew, tired eyes. And I came in one day, and they would call me down and say, hey, you have a complaint to answer on the phone. And one day somebody called, and their complaint was their neighbor's dog was peeing in their outlawn. And I remember sitting there on the phone. Do you remember this at all? And I remember sitting on the phone, and I was talking to them, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Have you tried to go over and talk to your neighbor? Yes, it's part of the city, but you don't technically. So I'm doing all of those words. And then I finally looked at them over the phone and said, I don't know what you would like me to do. Do you want me to come and pee in their outlawn? Will that make you feel better?
Recommend that one. That was not
the recommendation. And I got off the phone and I went, oh, I'm getting fired. I knew the next call was going to be higher up. And Brenda sat there and said, hey, it's so hard to be a Christian. It's so hard. Do you really want that to be the lasting influence behind that? And we had a moment that we talked, and she just shared and just poured into me. And she could have easily went right next door to our boss and said, yeah, John should get fired. And I don't know if she went over, I don't know how that all went, but that was just the friendship that just became so much more. That as the years went on and I transitioned out of the city and went into ministry and all that, we got a chance to celebrate. We got a chance to do all that. And now every week we get a chance to celebrate together. And it's so cool to look back on those moments. And I'm, again, so glad. And I'm glad that you stopped me from going and peeing in their out lawn, because I'm pretty sure that day I was going to do it because I was mad enough.
I'm pretty sure you would have ended up in the back seat of the cop car.
Yes, I would have. They would have came and got me. Yeah, but if I showed up in a cop car and did that with no,
I don't think that would have cut it.
That would have cut it. So, but I just want to say, like, I'm so blessed to be able to preach with you today, to share with you, and I've shared my stories of who you are, but you share with the fellow owners of One Church, the people here. Who are you, Brenda? What makes you you?
So this is a question that I really had to stop and think about, because so often in life, we're just going and doing. And when he asked me that question, I thought, who am I really? And first and foremost, I'm a child of God. I'm grateful to have been raised in a Christian home. I know that through and through. I have no doubt in my mind. I have the blessing of being a wife. My husband and I have been married almost 29 years now, and that is a gift from God that I treasure. I'm a mother. I have 2 wonderful grown sons, and I'm a grandmother. I have a couple grandbabies that you probably see running around here all the time, and I'm surprised that they made it over that way and didn't make it up this way. I think that was with some serious persuasion from their parents. I'm an employee of the city of Midland and have worked there for over 10 years. And as John said, I was in public services, and then I went to parks, and now I'm currently in the treasurer's office. So if you need to purchase anything through the city of Midland, you might see me there. My husband and I are business owners, and that is a whole story of its own, but that's been our endeavor for the last 13 years. And I'm also a church owner. I love the way that John talks about being owners of this church. We've been participants in church. We have volunteered in church. But when we came to One Church and he said that we were owners, and even said, be careful what you say might need to be done, because you might just be put in charge of making sure that that gets done. That's been an interesting part of being an owner.
And you've jumped right in with it, so I love it.
And then I'm also a servant and a neighbor, and a servant in various ways, whether it be, making coffee in the church, as he said, whether it be helping out at work or in the neighborhood, lots of different positions that God has in my life. But overall, I'm a child of God.
And I love that order. I love those things that you said. And as we go through this, it was kind of funny because some of these questions I sent your way where I'm like, I already know the answer, but I'm going to send them anyways. And we talked about does people, obviously, you have that infectious to draw people to you and to have those moments of just knowing that you're a Christian, knowing that you're a follower of God. Like, you put it out there so well. That even sleep-deprived, not the smartest John picked up on that in our time at the city together. But overall, not just how do you demonstrate that? I mean, do people know that you're a Christian? Would you say people that come in, and what are some of the unique ways and some of the unique struggles that you faced in the middle of trying to share the light of Christ to a lost and hurting world, or however you want to say that? Like, what are some of those struggles? I know you shared with me some of the things of even the items on your desk and stuff like that. Those struggles about trying to share your faith in the workplace, but also outside of these doors on Sunday.
Sure. I would say that most people probably know that I'm a Christian, but not 100% of the time. I'll admit I have lots of struggles along the way. Depending on how closely I get to know somebody, kind of determines the level of my faith that they know and understand. I've got some great coworkers. They've been through some years of life with me, and so they've seen me struggle, and they've seen how I've handled those struggles, both good and bad. When it comes to the struggles, it can be struggling to stay positive when the circumstances aren't great and not letting a negative situation get me down. It can be in the office, struggling not to fall into the office gossip and things like that, because that's very common. Struggling to be patient with God's timing. That's one that I just fail to understand and struggle with often, especially when it's not my timing. And then one of our office policies is that you have to be careful what you have displayed in your desk area, because we are a public building. And one of the items was that it can't be something that is political, religious, or controversial, being recognized by someone else in the building as, when I saw that part of it, I thought of you, and I went, in what way? And he said, no, when I come into your office, you have Bible verses in your office, and I know that that's important to you. Now, I only have them in my office, and I only have them small because I know it's not supposed to be broadcast everywhere, but it is important to me, and I want to make sure with some of those verses that I'm acting them out. So that's kind of my, one of my inspirational verses is being an encourager. That's something that we had talked about.
Well, and I think I'm going to circle back because I want to touch on something that you said that just really hit. You talked about the different things on your desk that I thought was amazing, and that people can see those Bible verses. People can see those moments, those little trinkets, those little things, in a way to know that it's a safe spot. And like you talked about the person that said, I thought of that, but knowing that they could come and ask for prayer. You shared with me this week, like knowing that you are a safe spot when you needed prayer. They can come, they can talk to you, and we can say, hey, let's pray about it. Let's walk through this. Let's be knowing that you're that safe person. But it takes so much more. And I'm going to jump to another thing that you said in there that hit a little bit different for me this morning was you talked about the gossip, right? Like our workplace gossip is crazy no matter where you are. Like I've worked in churches, I've worked in schools, I've worked in the city, I've worked everywhere. Gossip is in every place. And the funny thing is I was talking to somebody else and we were going through gossip in their workplace, and they said, well, so-and-so gossips and so-and-so gossips. And I said, and I shared with them, I said, well, do you ever fall into that? And they go, no, when I do it, it's not gossip. And I kind of laughed.
I've heard that before. It's not gossip because it's the facts.
Yeah.
Like, right, but it is not your time and not your place to share those facts. They're not your story to tell.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because we need somebody to vent, we need somebody to talk to, and we need somebody, and when you circle back around, and I think that was something that really triggered me too at our time at the city of Midland was you would often circle back to, hey, I let you vent, now let's circle back to growing from this. How are we going to be better? Are we going to live in that? Because that's where gossip becomes bad, is when we live in it and go, let me tell you about so-and-so and the things that they did, instead of going, okay, now I've let you vent, I've let you get that out. How are we going to go and be Christ now? How are we going to go and do that?
It's really easy to get bogged down in all of the things of life, and I've even noticed that myself. One of my bosses that I worked with at one point had a sign, and it was on the back of her door, which I thought was interesting, but it was a reminder that we're responsible for whatever we bring into the space. So whether that's a positive attitude or a negative attitude, we're responsible for how we do that. So that's one of the things that I was saying is a struggle sometimes, because it's really easy when life gets frustrating to go down that negative road and not be positive and upbeat. And there are things in life that will get us down. I'm not saying that we have to be happy all the time, but just recognizing that and being able to circle back.
Yeah, because that's an unrealistic expectation. And we're going to talk about that throughout this entire series. The theme of this is to live in those expectations, like as we grow and as we try to be better. And even in my own life, like some of our conversation inspired Jamie and I to talk about things that we're going to try to be better and continue to grow in. There's 3 verses that we're going to jump into today that I know you've talked about that are up in your office. There are different areas that you just cling to. The first one being Hebrews 3:13, Would you like to read it with everybody?
It says, "But encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness."
So it's just that reminder, right? And I'm not by any speck of the imagination, because that's not how one church works, saying like I have this figured out or Brenda has this figured out, but these are things that our conversation, that we work and strive to be, and that I would say you're doing amazing at, and I celebrate with the fact that you're doing that. So that first verse, as you read that, what is that telling you? To be a what? To be
an encourager.
An encourager, right? Like we, in our workplace and the places that God has called us to be, we need to be an encourager. And we need to look at that, right? It's easy for me coaching sports to go, that's where it jumps out easy when you're working with like 12, 14-year-olds and you're like, am I being an encourager? Am I the one that's putting my arm around them, right? Because kids are the greatest litmus test. They will like read right through it, and they will pout, they'll cry, but as adults, we've put up barriers, we've put up boundaries, but we need to also be the encourager there. God is calling us to be an encourager in our workplace, in our endeavors, the things that we do. And really, like when you leave the situation, did that person walk away from you going, wow, I feel better. I feel like I can take on the world. Or did that person walk away from you going, ugh? And you're one of the people, and I'm going off script a little bit here, that I remember you talking to me about, and I apologize if I'm not supposed to share this, I'll look the other way. But like the city of Midland, in different workplaces have review time. And they do this, we're going to tell you 3 good things about you and 3 bad things about you. And both of us went through it, and I remember us talking, going, there is nothing worse than hearing, well, let's tell you the 3 bad things. No matter how good of an employee you are or how bad of an employee you are, we got to tell you 3 bad things about you. And it's just not that encouraging, right? Where you want to walk away with that encouragement. So God's called us to be an encourager. The second verse that jumps out to you is from Philippians 2:3. If you would like to share that one with us.
"Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves."
Such a great reminder in Philippians of Paul reaching out to the church, telling them, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, do that. So to me, what is our reminder? What is our take home in that? To be a what? What is our hope? What is our calling on that one?
In that one, it's to be a servant. And I had the opportunity to take some business classes a couple years ago, and one of the classes was focusing on servant leadership. And it's not something that is super common, but if we are looking to see what others need and how we can be a servant to them, we can actually lead them in a more positive direction, and we can uplift them so that they can succeed in their goals, and with their successes, then we end up finding more success.
So to truly be that servant, right? To know that that's our place, is to help others. I know Brian talked about it even last week, and it's going to also be throughout all of this, is to truly be a servant and say, what can I do? How can I help you? There's nothing better on a stressful day than to have somebody go, what can I do? And truly mean it, not do it like, hey, what can I do for you? And walk away, because I've been guilty of that too.
Yes.
To truly be that.
I'm guilty of that as well. It's easy to just be like, and then you're on to the next thing. But one of the phrases that I heard somebody say, and I've used it since then, is, how can I best help you? Because there's lots of things that I could do to help you, and in my mind, I think I might know what you need, but what do you think you need? How can I best help you? What would help you in this particular situation?
And so your third and final verse that really stuck out, that jumped out to me, is Luke 1:68 and 72 through 74. So will you share that one with us?
"Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come to his people and redeemed them, to show mercy to our ancestors and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies and to enable us to serve him without fear."
So that one, right? Like this is Luke. He's sharing the gospel. This is the time of Jesus. Jesus is here, and knowing that you're going to have those ups and downs, knowing that you're going to have those struggles, knowing that every day at work, every day at school, every day where you are, it's not going to be easy. So what is your reminder here on this one? To be what?
On this one, it's to be fearless. God has made covenants going way, way back, and he is faithful to all of those covenants. And we have a covering of his love and his protection and his promises. And we can be fearless when we go out into the world. Sometimes it's so easy to hide behind, well, what if this happens or what if that happens? I can assure you, if any of that happens, he's already aware. And he will take you through it, and you will be better for it. So we can be fearless.
That is so perfect, right? To be fearless, to lean into that. I want to put back up that very first list that you had there, if we can, and of who you are, because again, we talked a lot about workplace stuff, but really it comes back to that very first list of who Brenda is and who you are. And I want to talk a little with this, right? Because it's not just these things, it's understanding that we're more than those things, and to go back through that you're a child of God, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a grandmother, you're an employee, you're a business owner, you're a church servant, you're a church owner, you're a servant, and you're a neighbor.
That too.
You're that too, yes. But all of those things, as we go through all of those things, you said something when we met this week that I thought was so perfect and just hit home, because all of those things that we're called to be, all of those things that God is reaching us out to and saying, hey, we have to be these things, is to understand. And I want you to share with everybody what you told me about that entire list of all those things.
So when it comes to this whole list, all of these things are things that I am, or that I've been called to be. And with being a wife and a mother and a grandmother, employee, all of those things, the world is going to judge me on that. They're going to say, oh, she really messed up this time, or hey, she did okay that time. But ultimately, above everything else, I'm a child of God. And we're all children of God. And the beautiful thing about that is that we can just be a child of God. And God will meet us, whether we're in a good place, a bad place, or any place in between. And he loves all of his children.
Right? Like, do you hear the power that we take away from that? Like nobody's going to be surprised in this room that I got emotional when Brenda shared that with me, because it hit different for me, and I hope it hits different for you. A mother, a wife, a grandmother, an employee, a business owner, all those things you're going to fail at. As a husband, as a dad, you're going to fail at those things. As a friend, you're going to fail. You're going to mess up, and the world is going to judge you on that. And they're going to look at you and say, well, how dare you do that to me? I've done all this for you. You did nothing for me. But as a child of God, yes, God calls us to more. God calls us in that stirring in our heart to be more. But we can't fail him. He loves us. We can't do anything that is going to knock us down off that pedestal. You get to be a child of God. And because of that, there comes freedom. And yes, it comes work and it comes growing, and it's not just like, okay, you can do whatever you want now, right? Like it takes doing that stuff. But there's nothing that you can do that will stop God from loving you. There's things that I'm going to do as a dad that's going to make my kids mad, and they're not going to like me very much. There's things that I'm going to do to Jamie and make her upset, that she's going to say her famous line, I love you, but I don't really like you right now. There's things that I'm going to do to friendships that I'm sure even people in this room that struggle and go through that. There's things that I'm going to fail at, but I can't fail God. He's still going to love me and walk through that. There's so much power into understanding that.
Absolutely. In the end, we will all be judged by him. However, either way, we're still his child, good, bad, or otherwise. All the way through it.
Absolutely, and he still loves us through that. So if nothing else today from Brenda and my time, I want you to take this away. Sometimes we are, sometimes we are just called to be. You're just called to be something, to be the encourager, to walk through that. We're called to take that love that God put in our hearts and the love that he has, and to go be that this week. and to be the best version of you that you can possibly be this week in your school, in your workplace, and wherever you are called to just be. Pray with me, won't you? Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much. I thank you for Brenda and her words and the friendship that started years ago, long before One Church was ever even a thought. And God, the stirring that you did, the work that you did through her into even my life and so many other people that saw a follower of you and knew it was a safe spot to be real and honest and pray together and get help, get words of wisdom when words of wisdom was needed. I pray that we will all be that this week, that we will be what you need us to be. To our family, to our loved ones, to our friends, to our strangers that we've never met before, that we are just called to be. And God, you will work in us so others will see you through us just being. It's in your name. Amen. So